Hey everybody, what's going on? Buddy Blackford here with another After Effects CS6 tutorial, and I want to show you how to randomize your text effects with the Wiggly selector. So what I mean is, I've got this text here, and it's just flying down, and I've got the per character 3D enabled. If you don't know what that is, I did recently just make a tutorial right before this about that, and you can check that out on the New Boston's YouTube page. So what we've got here is just some text flying, and I'll put it in the custom view so you can see what's going on. So basically just some text flying onto the screen in the Z space and in the Y space. Let me go to the active camera here, and we want to make this a little bit more randomized, and we don't want them to all come from the top and just fly down. We want each letter to come from like random areas. Well, sometimes your client might ask you to do that, and you got to do it, and you got to figure out how. But how do you do it? You add the Wiggly selector, or yeah, you just got to add that. So let's go to the selector here, right here, by clicking Add. If you twirl down in your text, here I'll start from the beginning. Twirl down in your text here, and you'll have this animator section, and it has the add button next to it. So click on add, go to selector, and click on Wiggly. Now you've got the Wiggly selector and your range selector in there already. So right now when I add the Wiggly selector, you can see it just like flies around like this and then comes back into where it is. Well, first of all, we wanted to start all these off the screen, and we wanted to like have them fly in, not just fly around on the screen where people could see them already. So what we're going to have to do is change the position here of the Wiggly selector. So let's change these to make it so it's more off the screen here. So this is Z, so that's not going to help that much. Let's change the X. And if we can get it so pretty much everything's off the screen, that's good. So we've got one letter here, and I'll turn off the motion blur. We've got one letter here that's still in the middle. So what we want to do when something like this happens, come down to our Wiggly selector and twirl down. We've got this random seed right here, and what we can do is change the seed. What the random seed is pretty much every time you use the Wiggly selector, it has a bunch of different preset what they're called as random seeds, and the letters will move in a different way based on what number seed you have. So if I push 1, it's going to set the letters up in a different way. So we need to find one that does not have them in the middle, or one that we can get the letters close to the side so we can take them off of the screen. So the L is pretty close here, so we can probably take that off by moving one of our positions here, and there we go. So now everything's off the screen, and you can see now that's way all over the place, which is okay, because then it'll fly in later when we let's ramp preview it and see what happens. Now they're just flying in from all over the place. Now if I put my motion blur back on to make it look a little more realistic, now maybe that's what your client wanted right there. So the wiggler here, the Wiggly selector here, is very random, and so I can explain what some of these do, but they're not always going to do the same exact thing every time. So we've got our modes here first. The modes, let me come into the middle, will affect how the Wiggly selector interacts with the selector that's above it. So in this instance, it's going to be the position was what I selected for the range selector here. So if I change it to add, it's going to interact in a different way. and this is probably not what we wanted. So in this one, it's just flying around. Subtract, we can see what that does. And subtract you might want to use. They're flying in from all over the place and not really like hanging around on the screen as much. So that would have been a good one to use for this. It's all about experimenting with the Wiggly selector. And then, I mean, you can check out these other ones to see what they do at some point. I mean, this one, the max doesn't have the letters stay on, so if you wanted that kind of effect, that's how you would go for that. You've got the max amount here and the minimum amount, which is pretty much like the offset in the range selector. And if I change these, the amount that the words are going to fly around on the screen are going to be lessened if I will lessen the amount, as you can see here by the you can see how the box now, maybe I can move back, if I lower these, the box is going to get smaller and it lessens the area that they're going to fly around in. So put those at a higher range, they're going to fly around even more. So now the box that they're flying around in is even bigger. And then this based on characters is the same as the one in the range selector, so you can base it on words, lines of text, or characters without their spaces. We got wiggles per second, which means pretty much how random and how fast it's going to wiggle around and be random. So if I increase this to maybe 10, they're gonna go even more crazier. So I'll save it real quick and then do a RAM preview so we can see what this looks like. A lot more stuff is going on, so it's taking a little bit longer to render. So there you can see how they're like really flying around right now. So that's what the wiggles per second does. This was at 2 before. The correlation property here determines if all the characters are wiggled the same, or if they're wiggled like separate from each other. So if I put this at 100%, they're all going to do the same exact kind of wiggle motion. So if you watch this text box, you'll see that they're all still grouped together and they're all flying around together basically until they fly onto the screen on their own. So they'll all be grouped together. And if I set it to 0, they're going to do totally different things than they're totally different movement from each other. So at 50%, it kind of does like a half and half, obviously, which is fine for here. The temporal phase here is like movement over time. So if I scrub through that, it's kind of like evolution, if you've seen that in other effects. And the spatial phase here is through space. So it's just kind of more of another way to randomize by using these, and they're keyframeable. So the next one is lock dimensions, and that's pretty useful when you're like doing scale, so that the X and Y will scale at the same time instead of really stretching out the letters and everything like that. So if I turn it on for position, it's going to have them move in like kind of like the same type of way. They'll move different, but it's not as random. So that's lock dimensions. And I've talked about the random seed earlier, where it'll just change the starting points it'll change the starting points of your characters when they're flying around, and how they move around on the screen. So this really randomizes what's going on. So you can, if you have two sets of letters and you have them on the same, and they're the same things, and you have them on the same random seed, then they're going to do the exact same thing. So you might want to change up the random seeds for each of those texts so that you don't have the exact same animation going on. So that's how you use the Wiggly selector and all of its character or properties here. And now you can be more of a pro at using this. Use it when you want to randomize things, and you learn how to reel in your letters so that it works correctly and isn't just a bunch of mumbo jumbo on your screen. So thanks for watching this tutorial. I appreciate it when you guys leave comments and upvote, downvote. I mean, it's thumbs up and thumbs down on YouTube, I guess. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.